Today we're going to be going back into language learning app review, and today we're going to be looking at the app Babbel, which today I'm going to be showing you on the desktop version, which I don't normally use, but it's just easier for me to record. So we're going to be looking at the desktop version of Babbel, but there is also a mobile app as well, which is what I typically use when I'm using Babbel to study languages. First off, you can see that Babbel has 13 languages up on screen here. It's, in my opinion, a decent mix of languages, and sometimes when you see language learning apps that have too many languages on offer, you kind of then start to worry about the accuracy of each language and how deep each language goes into its courses. For Babbel, with only 13 languages on offer, this isn't really much of an issue, at least in the languages that I've looked at myself on Babbel, because there are some that I've not yet got around to looking at, but others which I've gone fairly extensively into the course. So this is what the homepage of Babbel looks like, at least on the desktop. On the mobile it's a little bit different, but on the desktop this is what it looks like, and essentially it's laid out in a bunch of different courses. And so here, for example, you have the grammar, countries and traditions, specials, word and sentences. If I went back one and went into the other box that I selected, so that was courses by topic. If I went into courses by level, then there are two others here on the Polish one, which is newcomer and beginner. So I'm going to click on the newcomer. This will then show you what's in here. 12 out of 12 lessons completed for me because I've gone through all of these. And as you can see, there are all of these different courses to go through. It's the same for the beginner. And if we go into something a little bit more extensive, like words and sentences, which is kind of like the last one, you have like a bunch of courses within like the main course. 6 lessons here in the first words and sentences. You then have food and drinks with 13 lessons, body with 13 lessons, relationships, animals, holidays, home, digital world, media, and all of these other sort of like courses that you can go into. So for example, if you want to learn more about culture, click on culture, and then you've got all of these different subcategories or courses that you can complete right here. And I can show all 11 lessons, and you can see I haven't quite completed all of these, but there's a lot to go through, and it takes a long time to fully complete them all. Each one of these lessons, give or take, are about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how quick you do them, obviously. But that's roughly how long you'll be looking at each level. If we go into the grammar, then again, you can see like the kind of things they have here. Nouns in a nominative case, adjectives, etc., verbs, sentence structure. So there's like all of these lessons basically on the grammar of the language. And one thing I really like about Babbel is that they do like a countries and traditions thing. So not so much for like Polish, because it's only really spoken in one country, but if you was on something like Spanish, there's a lot more like in terms of countries and traditions, because obviously Spanish is spoken in multiple different countries. So for the Spanish, if I choose the course by level, you will see that there's not just the newcomer and the beginner, but here in Spanish you can see there's a newcomer, a beginner, intermediate, upper intermediate and advanced just within like this area here. So obviously Polish is sort of lacking when it comes to like the more advanced material. And then if I go back and we go into the other one, choose by topic, you can see that there are actually more courses here as well. Refresher, grammar, business Spanish, listening and speaking, countries and traditions, specials, and also words and sentences. So going into the countries and traditions, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, you got Mexican holiday, you got Spanish for holidays, Spanish around the world, etc., colloquial speech. That's another thing I like about Babbel, is that it actually teaches proper colloquial speech. And then if we go into the specials, we have false friends, true friends, Spanish idioms. There's all kinds of different things you can dive into with Babbel, which I think is really amazing. So what I'm going to do right now is just complete one of the newcomer courses. You can kind of get a feel for how the courses go. I'm going to probably do like the third or fourth one. Oh, actually, I've not got many done in the fourth course, so let's go into the fourth course. Apparently I've only got 4 out of 8. I thought they were all done. I'm going to do this course quickly to give you an idea of what it kind of looks like. Hopefully you get a good idea of like what each course offers. So let's start.
¿A qué te dedicas?
Soy médica.
¿Dónde trabajas?
Trabajo en un hospital. ¿A qué te dedicas?
So right here they teach you 4 different things, and then they go and ask you what each one of those 4 things mean. So this one is, what do you do for a living?
Soy médico.
¿Dónde trabajas?
Trabajo en un hospital.
And then right here you get like normally a page like this, which it will ask you to basically fill in the gaps, and also normally it's got some quite good information as well, which hopefully it will show here so you can get an idea of what that is. So to ask about somebody's occupation or name, you just need this useful expression a qué te dedicas, which is what do you do for a living. So to ask for someone's occupation.
¿A qué te dedicas?
To reply you can say I am plus your occupation, which would be soy. And then up here you can see in the blue that it's giving you some extra notes on top of that as well. And then we've got a review of ser, which is the verb to be. Choose the correct answer. Yo soy médico y trabajo en un hospital. Soy.
Yo soy médico y trabajo en un hospital.
Tú eres.
Tú eres técnica informática y trabajas en una oficina.
Ella es.
Ella es mecánica y trabaja en un taller.
Nosotras somos.
Nosotras somos camareras y trabajamos en un restaurante.
Vosotros sois.
Vosotros sois limpiadores y trabajáis en una empresa de limpieza.
Ellas son.
Ellas son gerentes y trabajan en un banco.
And then we have this page again, which you just again fill in the different blanks. To reply, use trabajo en una, the place.
Trabajo en un taller.
So right here we have matched the question with the answer. So, ¿dónde trabajas? Which means, where do you work? Trabajo en un restaurante.
¿Dónde trabajas?
Trabajo en un restaurante.
Soy camarero.
¿A qué te dedicas?
Soy camarero. Yo trabajo. Tú trabajas. Él, ella, usted trabaja. Nosotros, nosotras trabajamos. Vosotros, vosotras trabajáis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes trabajan.
So right there you can see that they have the verb trabajar, and it's broken it down into each one of its present tense forms. So this would be I work,
Yo trabajo.
you work,
Tú trabajas.
he, she, you work, we work, you work, plural, and also they work. So that's basically what each one of those ones mean. And obviously in Spanish, as well as a lot of other languages, they change the ending. And that's what it's teaching you here. Right here we have a bit of listening practice.
Hola, me llamo Sofía. Yo soy médica y trabajo en un hospital. Él es Daniel. Él es camarero y trabaja en un restaurante. Ella es Sara. Ella es mecánica y trabaja en un taller. ¿Y tú? ¿A qué te dedicas?
Okay, so after you've listened to all of that, you then go ahead and you answer 3 questions. Sofía es médica. Daniel es, I think, camarero. You can re-listen if you want as well. Sara trabaja en... Let's re-listen to that.
Ella es Sara. Ella es mecánica y trabaja en un taller. ¿Y tú? ¿A qué te dedicas?
Un taller. And that's it for that one. So that was quite a simple listening practice thing, but it's very good to get listening practice like that and actually hear simple, very cohesive spoken Spanish by a native, and for you to be able to listen to it and understand what it's saying, and also for you to be able to re-listen to that, I think is a very valuable thing to do. We had a couple things ago where it was telling you which one is from trabajar. Now we've got to choose which one, so that'd be trabajar.
Ella es policía y trabaja en una comisaría.
And also, by the way, if you're on like a desktop, you can press 1 or 2 on your keyboard and it will pick these if you rather than using a mouse. Yo soy profesor y trabajo en un colegio.
Yo soy profesor y trabajo en un colegio.
Okay, so this one is you work, so tú eres abogada y you work en un bufete de abogados. Trabajas.
Tú eres abogada y trabajas en un bufete de abogados.
And now we have a build the sentence option. As you can probably tell, we're going to be building a sentence. So, ellos trabajan en una fábrica.
Ellos trabajan en una fábrica.
We work at a hospital. Nosotros trabajamos en un hospital.
Nosotros trabajamos en un hospital.
Hola, soy Antonio. Encantado.
Yo soy María. Mucho gusto.
So basically right here we have at the end of the lesson, I believe it's always at the end of a lesson, there's something like this, like a bit of a dialogue. And basically you have the Spanish and the English. And at certain points you have to like kind of fill in the gap. And it's got the gap that you need to fill in the darker text here. It's are you. So we've either got eres or somos. And eres is the only one that makes sense in this case. So
Veo que llevas una bata. ¿Eres veterinaria?
no, yo soy médica.
No, yo soy médica y trabajo en un hospital aquí cerca. ¿Y tú?
Yo soy limpiador y trabajo.
Yo soy limpiador y trabajo en una casa. Te presento a mi marido, Juan.
Hola, mucho gusto, María.
Igualmente, Juan. ¿A qué te dedicas?
Yo soy mecánico y trabajo en un taller.
Yo soy mecánico y trabajo en un taller.
Mi esposa es...
¡Qué bien! Mi esposa es camarera.
¿Sí? ¿Y dónde trabaja?
Ella trabaja en un restaurante mexicano.
Me encanta la comida mexicana. Tenemos que ir a ese restaurante.
Okay, so that's the end of the dialogue, and as you can see as I scroll up and down, you can see basically what the dialogue is. It's basically a culmination of everything that you've learned in this lesson so far, and probably not so much in this particular dialogue, but normally they teach you some kind of street Spanish or whatever language you're learning. And the language that I get in this ending dialogue thing just always seems to be more authentic and real to the real life, like street spoken language, as opposed to other language learning apps, which will literally teach you like a textbook, which it normally has like dry language and nothing that really has much of a flow to it. So I always find that this is quite a cool little ending to each lesson, just to like sort of wrap up everything that you've learned in the lesson. If you really want to, you can re-listen to the dialogue down below. You can screenshot so you've got all the dialogue to look back on, or you could just take out certain individual words and you can like note them down to then sort of study those externally from Babbel. But it exposes you to all of this in what I would say is quite a digestible and nice way, which is a lot more useful for someone who's learning a language than, again, other language learning apps which I have used before and not been as successful in doing this. So overall, I quite like the way that Babbel is laid out, and I quite like the simplicity of everything, and I quite like the way that it teaches like little bits and it builds up and then it gives you like this dialogue at the end. I think it's just really well laid out. So right now we have a listening and repeating section. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you just hear what you have to say and then you try to repeat it the best you can.
¿A qué te dedicas?
¿A qué te dedicas? And then you can see there, for example, I got it wrong. I actually find this word a bit difficult for my mouth to say personally. We can either click to retry, you can just skip if it's getting a bit frustrating for you to try, or alternatively you can press the no microphone button to then not speak at all. But it is always useful when you're learning a language to actually speak that language, because if you don't, you won't ever actually learn to speak that language. And so if we click to retry, ¿a qué te dedicas? ¿A qué te dedicas? There we go. We got it that time.
¿A qué te dedicas?
What I will say is I feel like majority of language learning apps, their listening AI system is only so good. So sometimes you may say something correctly and it may not be so good. Babbel is okay. Sometimes I say things which I think is correct, but it doesn't really hear it the same way that I do, I
Yo
guess.
soy policía.
Let's try with this one and see if we can get it first time. Yo soy policía. There we go, first time. I think that first phrase I just can't really say that well, to be honest. It's just one of those things.
Él trabaja en un restaurante.
Él trabaja en un restaurante. And that's it. There were only 3 phrases at the end to listen and to repeat. and I got 37 out of 38 correct. You can here correct my mistakes or continue learning. So if I go to correct my mistakes,
¿A qué te dedicas?
you can then see where you'd gone wrong, and then you can try again to get it without messing up. ¿A qué te dedicas? And we managed to get it first time.
¿A qué te dedicas?
Continue, and we got 1 out of 1, and then we can continue learning. So that is essentially what is involved when you go into a course on Babbel. And to be honest, all of the courses are similar in the way they're laid out. Some are slightly different because, for example, if you go into the grammar one, you'll kind of have more of an explanation, more little tips that pop up at the top to tell you, like what something is, and maybe in a certain part of the country, something may be referred to as another word, and there's all these other kind of tips. And I think in general it's like a really good app. It really feels like all of these languages were made by people who knew about the language or were even native in the language themselves. And yeah, just in general, like it's just laid out like a really good app in my opinion. Again, I quite like personally like the whole look of the look of the app and the website. And I quite like the way it's just simple, and you go into your course and you complete the course, and then you go into the next course and you can just progress. Something else that I never mentioned, but when you buy like the full app, you can just choose whatever course you want. You don't have to progress through on like a timeline or anything. You can just decide to pick any course and any lesson, and then you can do them at your own time in your own order. And so there's no like tree to complete as such, but instead it's just here's all the courses. Pick whichever one you fancy doing today. You don't have to do the one that's next in line, because sometimes you may just see a lesson and you're like, I don't want to do that one because I'm not ready to learn about that particular topic, or it's just not of interest to me, and so you don't learn it. So like I showed you earlier, here we have, for example, relationships, which I've completed like maybe 4 out of 11 lessons by the looks of it, because only like half or like a quarter of the circles like filled in green. And if we go down a bit more, media, I've done like 2 out of 11 lessons. And if we go down to basic properties, I've done 4 out of 13. So you can literally choose any one of these. You're not really tied into doing lesson 4 and then lesson 5 and then lesson 6. I can decide to do in any order I want, which I think is amazing. I just think that flexibility is a really useful tool, and some days I might decide to learn one thing over another, and so that's why I really like that whole idea here on Babbel. Now Babbel does have some other things as well, but that's mainly what I use it for. There is, for example, this review section, so you have your daily vocab workout, which you can review daily vocabulary. I have 1,977 words that I've learned so far, apparently, according to Babbel, and then if I scroll down, you can have an idea of like the kind of things it have taught me, or it's shown me, things that I've like, I guess, learned over time. But yeah, you can see here that like these are all just like sentences and words. Like here's an individual word. I think this is all done in like reverse order actually, so these are like the more recent things that I've learned. But go over here, you can see like the more simple words that I must have learned very early on in my journey on Babbel, and these are all just like very basic like words and some phrases down here as well, that you would learn on your like sort of first few lessons. But to be honest, I never really do like the review thing, because with 1,900 words to review, that just is too much for me to deal with. So I don't bother really with the review, but I could do if I fancied it. And also there are 3 pretty average games. They're not the best, to be honest, and apparently in Polish there's only 2 games looking at this. One is called Word Tracks, another one's called Phrase Maze, and over in Spanish there's also Sync or Spell. So obviously some languages have more to offer than others, and it's kind of the very typical languages that everyone wants to learn will be more fleshed out than, you know, the languages such as maybe Polish, or I don't even know, like Danish or whatever. They're just not quite as full with the courses as something like Spanish or German or French. I kind of wish that Polish had more courses, but at the same time I haven't even completed all the courses on my Polish channel or like account, so that doesn't really bother me at the moment anyway. But if I ever got to a point of where I've completed them all, I would like more to be introduced. But what I will say with Babbel, there doesn't really ever seem to be a lot of updates. I've been using Babbel now for 3 years, and I've not once seen a new language being introduced onto the website or on the app. It has always been this same selection of 13 languages. I have seen quite a few different courses being introduced over the last 3 years onto Spanish. I don't think I've seen anything new on Polish. So that's kind of a little bit of a disappointment. but there is a lot of content on there regardless, so that's not the worst thing. It's just I do wish that they would continually update the app, but unfortunately they don't really do a lot for it. And like I say, the games are not really that great. Like, I play all three of them, and they're just very basic. The pricing for Babbel it confuses me, and I kind of forget how much I paid for it, but it wasn't like loads. I think it was in the region of like £70 to £100, something like that, because it was on like a discount. I would say never buy Babbel at full price, just because it's always like hugely discounted. You get access to all of the languages. I believe there wasn't an option just for one language, or maybe there was, but it was as expensive as like the one for all of the languages or something like that. Again, unfortunately, I don't quite remember the pricing. Okay, here are the prices. They are in US dollars for some reason, but ignoring that, you get an idea of like how much you'll be looking at. So actually, lifetime is a lot more expensive than I thought, but you get access to all languages, and like I say, there is normally like huge discounts anyway, so I would never have paid this much. I would have had a huge discount which would have brought it down, and also Great British pounds are a little bit less, so like $300, I don't know exactly, but it's probably around like, I'm not even sure, like £260 or something like that. Not really too sure, but it's roughly like that. Or you could do 12 months for $6.95 a month, or you could do 6 months for $8.45 per month. You can obviously see all of here. There are more plans apparently, one for 3 months if you just wanted to give it a 3-month try. Basically, I just decided to go for it, and I actually have really enjoyed it for the last 3 years. I haven't used it much in the last year, but that's only because I've been busy using other methods of learning. But Babbel is always a really great app for me to come back to if I need it. And I also know that Babbel's always there, and I've paid for it now, and it's not like I need to pay for it again or anything. Like, that's it. It's not a monthly pay more or anything. I've paid a one-time price, and that's a lifetime access to all of these languages. Plus, hopefully, if in the future they add any more languages, that I would be included in on the price that I paid as well. So, I think that's everything I wanted to mention in the Babbel review. Overall, I think it's one of the better language learning apps out there. And yeah, if you like this video, please make sure to leave it a like, rating, subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Have you used Babbel yourself? And if so, again, let me know your opinion on Babbel in the comment section below, because maybe there was something I missed out, or maybe there was something that you wanted me to explain more, or whatever it may be. Let me know in the comment section below. It'd be cool to see your guys' interaction on this video. Please make sure to click one of the 2 end screen videos that are going to be coming up in a minute, and we'll do it out of the way. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, have a good one, and peace out.